So good to be here again. I'm back for another solo episode addressing a lot of questions that I've been getting around separation anxiety. So this is really, really common. I get asked about it a lot. So I'm going to share with you actually some of my favorite strategies. I'm also going to walk you through what I think is happening to you, and I'm going to tell you what your child needs in that moment because I think it's an interesting one because most mothers in particular that I work with, when a child sort of really protests when they leave or when there's a lot of anxiousness being displayed, it really kills us. It's really pulling at our heartstrings. We really feel terrible. And in the context of doing something like a have to, like if you have to go to work or you have to leave them at school, that can be managed. But I want to address like the feeling most mothers have when you are going to have dinner with friends and your child is really struggling because they know you're not going to be the one putting them to bed that night. I'm going to talk to you on those points because I think those are the ones where we really sort of put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I think we sometimes miss the mark because we start to sacrifice some of our own needs because we don't want to put our child through something that might feel hard, especially when we think it's for our joy. So I'm going to help you reframe that completely. And I'm also going to walk you through a couple of reframes on what you might be doing and what you might want to reconsider. So let's jump into it. So separation anxiety is common, particularly in younger children. So when we're thinking younger, I mean like certainly like a year to 3 years of age, maybe 2 years of age. Actually, three is kind of can be a little bit generous, but again, it just depends on the child. I've worked with some kids that are 6 and 7, and they really struggle to separate from a parent. So regardless of age, there's a few things that you want to think about. So, the first thing is you want to build predictable routines as much as you can. So, what happens is I think when kids start to realize that you leave and there is this period of time until you come back and they start to put together that there is this space between the two of you, they get really kind of upset and they don't want it in that moment. And I think for a lot of parents, we start to feel guilty. And the first place where I think it goes a little bit south or where we go wrong is we prolong the goodbye. So, number one, just really think about what does your goodbye look like? Because the more clear and confident and steady you are when you say goodbye to them, the better that they will feel and the quicker they will move through it. So, let me just paint this in a little bit of a different picture for you. So, I was working with a mom and her daughter would get really upset every time she would leave, okay, or when she had to go to school. She was in preschool. And anytime there was any moment of separation, there was a lot of emotions, right? A lot of things happening, which is understandable. And the mom would sort of do what I called like joining the party, right? And this is where we go like, I know, I wish I didn't have to be separated from you either. I wish I didn't have to go to work. And I'm so sad when I'm not with you too. And I know why we do this because in some ways we kind of want to mirror to our kids like we love you so much too, and if we could spend every second with you we would, and like there are just moments where we can't, but I feel the same as you. And from an empathy standpoint, which you guys know I'm like constantly talking about the importance of empathy, like it makes sense and it's a really, I understand it's a really good-hearted decision. However, in that moment, what we're really doing is we're just kind of reinforcing what they're thinking. Like, see, this is a terrible idea. Why are we separating? You don't agree either. You think it's a really bad idea too. Then why? Why do I have to go to this place called school? Why are you going to this other place called work or the office or whatever it is? And I think we are missing the mark a little bit there because what we want to do is take these moments to build resilience and independence and give our kids opportunities to figure out who they are when we're not there, to learn how to be with a different caretaker within the context of other kids if it's being dropped off at school. There's a ton of really great learning opportunities, but if we constantly pitch it as like me and you together is the best and anything other than that is like, ugh, just second best or not that great, we kind of like set ourselves up to not really help our kids get through those moments. So instead, and by the way, this is hard because you might really feel that way. You might be like, I wish I didn't have to go to work and I wish I could cuddle with you all day and we could stay in our jammies and we could just hang out. But for the sake of what your child needs, I want you to really steady yourself. I want you to take a really big deep breath and really get back into that body. And I want you to ask yourself, what is the aim? The aim is I really want to help my child know and understand that they are safe even when I'm not here because I choose the places and spaces where they can stay. And I also want them to grow and thrive and be the greatest version of themselves. And so I want them to know that even when things feel hard, they have what it takes to move through it. So, how do I do that? Well, if I walk over there and I start to say, I know this is the worst day ever, that we can't stay together at home all day, that's probably not it. So instead, what if I just went over there and I saw they were upset? I just named it, but I also said, but guess what? I'm coming back and you're going to have a great morning and I'm going to have a great morning. We're going to see each other after school and after work or after whatever. You get to tell me all about it. Love you. You got this. We've got this. I'll see you later. Period. When we can give a clear, confident goodbye, with clear expectations, right? Those predictable routines that I mentioned right at the top, that's going to always help our kids, not immediately though. So if you're like, I tell them that I'm coming back and I do that and they still cry, it's because they need to see it happen multiple times, right? Kids learn through stacking experiences. Kids are experiential learners. So what they need to see is that, oh yeah, I cried that day and then I cried again that more days. But every time, I'm starting to have fun at this other place and mom did come back. She always comes back just like she says, or dad always comes back just like he says. And now we start to have them learn through their own process. We can tell them until we're blue in the face, I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back, and all the things that we say. It doesn't matter. Kids have to learn it and they have to go through it. So it's really important that we try to build up some predictable things. So here is another way you can do this if you are looking to what I call build a bridge. So let's say your child's really, really, really struggling and you're like, oh my gosh, but you don't understand. We get to like level 10 meltdown. I mean, I've worked with some families where kids will even make themselves vomit in the midst of their dysregulation and being really upset and crying. Some kids will start to throw and flail their bodies. I mean, it can become so arduous and hard both for the parent and the child. So let's walk through a couple of what I call bridge approaches. Those are things that we know the ultimate goal is for us to say, goodbye, honey, I love you. See you after school. I'll be there to pick you up, or daddy's going to be there and then I'll see you at home, or whatever the routine is. Once you've done that and the hope is like they go, okay, mom, see you later. Right? That's great, but you're probably so far away from that. So sometimes we can bridge those things. So that's what I call a bridge approach. It's like we're getting there and we're bridging our way closer to it without it completely feeling like we're just going to rip the band-aid off all at once. So one of the things I used to do when I was a therapist is if some kids didn't like separating from their parent, we would ease them into it. So maybe the first couple of sessions I would have the parent stay in the room and maybe just sit a little further back toward the like office wall so they weren't right next to their child. So the hope there was that the child begins to learn to trust me and that they learn to have fun with me and that they still feel safe, and that little by little as they have more experience with me they start to go, okay, she's okay. She's not that bad. She plays with me. She actually has really fun toys in here. Actually, she's, been so much fun every time I come. And little by little, they start to feel more comfortable, right? So that's the aim. And some kids, when we kind of get to the point where now we want the parent to exit the room, they can have a really hard time with that. So I would say to some parents, why don't you just come in and leave your purse in here, or leave a notebook in here, leave something that is distinctly yours, right? The reason I say purse is because most kids know their parents' purse, and leave it in here and explain to them that you're coming back, and just walk out. Let them know that you're leaving, but your purse is there. Keep an eye on my purse. Okay, I left my keys right here for you. Okay, I'm going to be back. You want to leave an object of yours with them to sort of solidify to the child that there is going to be a return. My mom can't leave without the keys. My mom can't go anywhere without her purse. My mom needs this thing. And I cannot tell you how many times that has helped. This has even worked in cases of like bedtime when I've worked with families, of like if you need to just step out because you can just see they're not letting themselves unwind because they're struggling, they know you're going to leave, they're not wanting to sleep, and you don't want to do like a walk out and just let them cry it out or whatever, that feels wrong to you, then I'll have a parent say something like, hey, I'm going to leave and you put the thing that you want to leave there. It can be anything. It can be your favorite book. It can be a journal, something that your child knows is yours, right? A mug with nothing in it, just like your favorite mug. So they know that it's the mug you use for your coffee, a water bottle, whatever. You're just going to say to them that, hey, I'm going to be back in a few minutes. I'm going to leave this here. Okay. Just keep an eye on it for me while you're relaxing. Okay. I got this. I'm going to go get something out of the kitchen and I'll be back. I can't tell you how many times the parent comes back. And I'm not saying not to come back, by the way. Come back. Do the thing that you're telling them you're going to do. The child's usually asleep. It does something where they see that you're returning There is this physical proof that you're coming back, and it works really well. So feel free to try it out and use it. If I were coaching you and your child is working through that, what I would tell you, if you're thinking like, well, what am I going to do? Leave a purse every time or leave my coffee mug every time? Like at what point does it stop? You will be able to gauge that. Trust your intuitive knowing, and what's going to start to happen is as your child grows more and more relaxed and comfortable, you are not going to need to do those things because, like I mentioned, kids learn through experiences, and they need to have multiple experiences of a positive outcome to start to say, this is actually fine. I can manage this. I can do this. And it looks different for every child. It looks different depending on the ages and stages. So if you have a child where it's taking longer, just stay the course. But what you don't want to do is adjust and constantly change what you're saying, because then that changes out that predictable routine that we talked about. And the minute we lose predictability, anxiousness increases. So when we have an uptick in anxiousness, then we kind of have to, it's almost like you start all over, right? And I was listening to somebody say this, and it's really true, but they were talking about anxiety. And I think it's true across the board, not even for kids, but just if we just looked at, and I'm not talking about like, when I say anxiety in this case, I'm not talking about people who have like a true blue medical disorder, if that's the case, but I'm talking about people who lean anxious, kids who lean anxious. You can kind of see it in different moments where anxiousness might present. Really, a lot of times we think to ourselves that the opposite of anxiousness is calm. So we always want to go there. We want them to be calm. But the opposite of anxiousness is self trust. So even if I think to myself in moments where I might lean a little anxious, like I think by nature I'm just a little more of an introverted person. So when I go places where there's like a lot of new people that I need to meet or things of that sort, I might start off feeling kind of anxious. I might start off kind of like, I might even be like, why did I commit to this? Like there's always that like internal dialogue where I might try to talk myself out of it, but I work through it. And I remind myself that I do this a lot of times. I go into rooms and spaces and work with people and talk with people and speak to crowds and things like that. And it works out really well. And in fact, I meet really wonderful people, and the result is always so positive, and it fills my cup, and I hopefully connect with others, and it does the same for them. And so as I work through that and I start to go, I can manage this. This is not new. This is my scared self right now, and you know what, I got this, I can do this. And I'm literally building that muscle. I'm telling myself, like, trust that you have what it takes to manage what is coming. Let's even say worst case scenario, let's say it's like a total disaster of an event or something, like it's not happened, but let's say that happens, I still trust and believe that I'll manage it. The minute I move into more self-trust practices and I start to work through it that way, I automatically begin to anchor, calm down, steady myself. And so the same is true for kids, right? So if kids are struggling with separation, we have to give them enough opportunities where they go through separation and realize they're okay, so that they can in turn then build self-trust through that moment and go, gosh, that was hard, but it was good. I ended up liking it. I like this school. I like my friends. I like playing at the park. I like when the babysitter comes over. I like actually when daddy gets to put me to sleep. I like when mommy puts me to sleep, or grandma or grandpa are here watching me. I like when I get to go sleep somewhere else. It was kind of fun. So we have to give them these opportunities. So even if it's hard, there is so much to gain. So this leads me to, if you are a parent who is always feeling guilty, like if you're going to do something for yourself, this is where it really gets us the most, because this is, I think, what happens. And I'll use moms as an example, but this is what tends to happen to some of the clients that I've worked with, some of my friends. I can certainly relate to this myself, but they'll be going to leave their kids because, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to go have dinner with friends. And this is a really important time for adults. I think sometimes this seems like it's a nice to have, not a have to have. And I would encourage you to reframe that. We need these interactions in the same way that our kids need social interactions, in the same way that our kids need to have different experiences, so do we. So whatever messaging that you have adopted that says, I cannot choose something for myself if it means that the people in my life will have to go through something hard, such as being sad about separating, or maybe now your partner has to put a grumpy kid to bed because you're not there. That does not mean that you should sacrifice the thing that you need to do, right? This is where it's like all hands on deck kind of a thing. This is where we need that partner to rise and go, just go, I got it. I got it. It's nothing, this is not phasing me. This is where we need to walk through these things ourselves and possibly journal and reflect and go like, at what point did I stop giving myself permission to do the things that fill my cup? Right? At what point did I believe that a good mother is a mother that only is constantly sacrificing and putting the needs of everybody else before my own? Where and how did I subscribe to that? And then really working through some of Byron Katie's work here and saying, is it true? Is it true that a good mom is a sacrificial mom? I can tell you right now, as a mother of adult kids, a son and a daughter, I consciously chose that I did not want my kids to ever describe me that way. Listen, we all know that parenting comes with sacrifice. Anybody who is a parent knows this. We don't have to brag about who sacrifices more and who gives more of themselves and who's the busier parent and the more productive parent. That's all noise and it's all quite silly. Because the truth is, the only people we should care about in terms of how our performance review goes is A, ourselves, and B, our kids. And the way we do that is by continuing to live our lives. I wanted my daughter to grow up and see a woman who stood in her truth, stood in her power, lived her life while balancing the demands of family and doing it with love and balance. I didn't want her to turn around and say, motherhood, if she decides to be a mom one day, is me completely sacrificing everything and giving up all of my identity, myself, the things I love, all in the name of good mothering. I didn't want that. So when you are hit with these moments where you feel like, okay, I'm going out to dinner. Now my kids are upset. My husband's probably going to feed them the wrong thing for dinner. He's going to have a really hard time putting them to bed. They're not going to sleep well. And as a result, I'm going to be the one who gets home and has to wake up with them in the middle of the night and then have to deal with grumpy kids the next day because nobody did what they were supposed to tonight, right? These are the sort of, this is the runaway train that happens to most of us. And then we're not even at the restaurant to meet our friends yet. And we're already hating that we committed to this, wishing we wouldn't have come. And like the energetics of that is so problematic, right? It weighs us down. It's heavy. We're not feeling joy. Like joy is such a great thing, right? We want joy begets joy. If I'm in a joyful state, guess who feels that? My kids, my husband, my loved ones, right? So let yourself have it. So instead, when your mind starts to have that racing thought that I just, told you guys about, stop yourself. This is where we're going to use PAR. We're going to pause. Big deep breath, steady yourself, get back in your body, pause, acknowledge. It is so hard to make a choice that's for me where I feel like I'm hurting others, especially my kids. My child's struggling right now because I'm choosing to go to dinner with friends. And then respond to yourself. My child benefits from these moments. My child will not benefit if I'm the one who is always Velcro to them. My child learns and has resilience when I let them work through things. I know my child's safe. I know my child's in good hands. Even if nothing goes the way I want it to go tonight and tomorrow winds up being like a little bit of a day, I'm going to have the best time tonight with my friends. I'm going to connect. I'm going to talk about things that make me laugh so hard that, my abs start to hurt. I'm going to do the things that remind me of like who I am in the absence or outside of the role of mom and all the things that fill my cup in addition to parenting, right? It doesn't have to be an either or. And I want you to then reflect and think about where are the moments where we're just saying to ourselves, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. That's the name of the game. Because it's not. And we want to paint a different picture for our kids. Parenthood is not martyrdom. We don't want them to believe that. We want our kids to know they can live a full life. You can find that balance. It's hard, right? It takes time, it takes effort. We can acknowledge the way we're feeling, but that's what we need. That's what we need to do. And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. I was talking about this with a client that I'm working with, and I was saying to them that if every time your child really struggles when you walk away or step into another room, and if your knee-jerk reaction is to hurry up and go back to them, you are inadvertently reinforcing the idea that I can't do it without my mom around. I can't do it without my dad around. Because our response, the hastiness of it, the quickness of it, the discomfort that comes up when we see they're in discomfort. So hurry up, I got to get back there so he doesn't completely lose it. I'm okay, he's okay. This is so tiring. I can't even walk out of the room. Right? We're having all these mixed feelings. When we go back every time they start to become dysregulated, it just shows them that, yep, every time you're upset, I got this. You can't manage it. I'm here. And then the child starts to think, oh my gosh, I'm feeling that bad feeling again. I'm feeling that bad feeling again. I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream. Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. This is the answer. She has to come back. He has to come back. So we don't leave them with another option if the only path they know is get upset, I run back, get upset, I run back. This becomes a really specific pattern that they get used to. So if you're in this pattern, one, I'm sending you so much love because I know you're doing it because you love that child so much, and I get it. I totally, totally get it. However, I'm going to encourage you to pause. And even if you start building breaks in there and little by little go back to them. So if they cry, give it like 30 seconds. And then after 30 seconds, walk back. And in that 30 seconds, you anchor yourself and you go back to them clearly and confidently, like, oh my gosh, I was right. I was just in the other room. I'm here. Okay. And maybe a little bit later, if I have to step away, I'll come back just like I did now. And you move on and you do something else. And then after a little bit, you do the same thing. And you're going to keep adding time. And it's okay if they're upset. If there's anything you hear me say right now, it is that kids are allowed to be upset. They are working through things as they develop in the same way that we as adults are still developing, and we also get upset in our own development. If every time we got upset, somebody came and told us, no, don't, we would never learn the thing we need to learn, right? It's just part of the process. Not enjoyable. I know, I get it, but it's part of the process. So we build on those time blocks. We build on those time blocks. And again, like that's, you can even use the object if you know you're going to be longer that I talked about that I used to do with the purse or a cup or whatever. You can do that. And then the last thing, this one's actually a good tip for kids who struggle at school. You need your school on board for this though. I used to have parents like write a little note to their child and I would have the parent give it to the teacher. You can even email the teacher and have the teacher print it, or you can just hand it to the teacher in a really beautiful envelope, like make it a whole thing. And then the deal is the child gets to open the envelope and the note from you once they're inside the school with the teacher. This is a really great way to help build, especially younger kids, preschool, kindergarten, even first grade. This is really effective because it just builds on that idea of a surprise, something novel, something fun, something different. And again, what are we doing? We're actually allowing them to have multiple experiences where they realize they're okay in that setting. They realize they're safe, and we are adhering to the predictable routines that we're laying out there. So if you couple all of that together and try some of these strategies, let me know how it goes. But that's what I would want to leave you with. Again, this is a common thing in parenting. You guys, if you want additional support and you want to reach out for one-on-one coaching, certainly book a free discovery call with me and I can walk you through at least what I would recommend or if coaching is right for you. But if you're like, I'd love to, but I just don't think I have the resources or time or the commitment, you guys join my paid community in Substack. I am really showing up there and I'm holding space. I'm sending voice notes to the community. I am sending little reminders, 3-minute videos that aren't on TikTok or Instagram, and I'm sharing them there so I can give you guys more step by step. We're talking life advice sometimes. I'm sharing books and resources. So if you cannot do the coaching, no problem. I totally get it. But jump into that Substack community. What I know right now is this: we need community. We need to see ourselves in other people's stories. And that's what happens when we start to come together. No more isolation. No more shaming ourselves. No more self-talk that's telling us we're not doing it good enough. Let's come together and hold space. And it would be an honor for me to be able to do that side by side with you guys. So the link for that is there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Feel free to message me, especially over on Instagram, or just send me an email if you have questions about the episode. Talk soon.